I'd kill Adam.
I
think the bragging rights of
this is what I was getting to, right?
Okay.
Like, you fuck Adam, you just fucked some, like, needy
just
little bottom boy.
bloke from 2012, not even a good year.
And whereas, like, if you fuck the jagrafess, you fucked the jagrafess.
It's got a
and gotten away with
3,000
it.
year lifespan, right? You've never fucked anything with a 3,000 year lifespan, except maybe the AC, because I don't know how good the warranty on that is.
I mean, how much later is the finale set?
Like 100 years, is it?
Yeah, it's not long enough.
Oh, okay.
It's not long enough for us to know. And I don't believe they're doing anything nearly as impressive as cooling down the upstairs to freezing temperature while keeping.
But it's
the
still
rest
evidently working.
Yeah, but it could have been reinstalled though. We don't know if there's been heavy maintenance.
I like how Simon Pegg's character has white hair and blue eyes because he's an icy cold man.
Yeah, he's the cold miser.
It's so silly.
I think it's fine. I don't really get why.
No, me neither. I
That's
like
not
it.
a good reason.
I
but
agree.
I'm kind of like, yeah, why not? It is a bizarre choice. There's kind of implications to, if you get too cold without dying, do you become an Iceman in Doctor Who?
I guess in the year 200,000.
Yeah, that they've got technology, so
I
mean they can have liquids and solids freeze in your esophagus without killing you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
By
I forgot about the
nanotermites.
weird.
So maybe he's just got nanotermites all over his body.
I love how they call them nanotermites.
They are
What
nanotermites.
a weird episode.
They were like, oh, what kind of animal does this? Well, termites.
This definitely has, but the trend of perfection so far.
I think this might be the episode I have the least dislikes and changes for since like the end of the world.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I've got a 5-word summary. It's not very good.
I've got one.
Okay.
It's a fake news versus the Doctor.
Oh, nice and simple, classic.
Mine is sinister Medicare nearly ruins everything.
Is that in relation to the weird doctor surgeon
lady?
woman?
Yeah, she was very eager.
I've got Rupert Murdoch goes slug mode.
Okay, I
That was my takeaway from the episode, and that might be why I like it so much. Is because I came up with that in the last 5
We
seconds
should have
and
a
thought
party
this is
when
good.
that man dies.
Oh, we will.
Will he go boom like the
Yes.
jagrafess?
Only if we break his AC.
Okay, so
We're gonna break into like the Sky headquarters.
Are we
and,
saying
like,
that Rupert Murdoch also can't speak? Much
Have
like
you-
the
right, have
Jagrafess,
you-
just roaring a lot.
well, I mean, he speaks, but in a language
Have
that
you-
only like crazy people can
And also
hear.
never on screen.
Have you ever been in to the headquarters of Sky? Like, their bottom floor is roasting.
There's just like a bunch of really sweaty interns. That's like the whole bottom floor.
And they say that when you get to floor 50, it's made of gold.
Yeah, and it actually is. Like that's not a lie.
That's not a lie.
It is
It
made of
actually
gold,
is,
but
and
very
it's
cold.
just this big slug man who is sellotaped to the ceiling. And
No, he's not even a big slug. It's just Rupert Murdoch, but
Yeah.
he's sellotaped
Well,
to
yeah,
the
same,
ceiling.
Yeah, it's a big slug man.
Same difference.
And then there's loads of just regular. Oh no, they'd be expensive Dyson fans. There's loads of expensive Dyson fans pointed at him that are just blasting him with air.
First thing I wrote down for this episode was CMGW, of course.
You had that very early.
It
on.
was instant. It
It's-
was amazingly quick.
What's the quote from you, Kamal? It was very piddly.
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved it. I wish
said,
I'd written that down.
I said there was a lot of piddling around and blippity blopperding or something.
That was
this
it. That
episode.
was it. The
might
score
be my
did that a
favourite
lot,
quote.
and I loved it.
It's because there was a lot of kind of people meddling with stuff, and there was a lot of kind of the Murray Gold win that I really liked was the bit where like all of the weird little cafes open up suddenly during everyone's presumably like 10-minute break that they get.
Yeah.
And there's like a steam whistle, and then suddenly like there's all this bustle, and there's like this
That was great.
really
Yeah.
funny little jaunty music, which I just thought was good. And there were loads of little moments of kind of that throughout the episode where there was like you'd cut into just like this person's doing a little bit of a snoop, or this person's in like a really crowded area, and you need some kind of tune to keep you like immersed with that person in like this big kind of oppressively crowded place.
One of you said, I forget which one, it was a very heavily scored episode.
Nah, it was Sam.
Mm.
It was in relation to us talking about the
Because
grizzly
the
block.
dialogue, I don't know, the dialogue, there weren't as many, I haven't got half as many quotes for this one.
No, I've just got the 2.
So I couldn't quote piddledy.
Well, you're allowed. Well, I think we determined today that
Also,
we're allowed to
I was
quote each
very
other if we want to.
tempted.
Oh, yeah.
I was very tempted to write one of my quotes as the big siren that sounded when they all went out for lunch.
What, the steam whistle?
I love
sounding
that
thing?
steam whistle. It's very
It
that
was like
Sunny episode where
Yeah,
they make a sweatshop.
make a sweatshop
But I think I've had
downstairs.
one too many times when my quota's been a noise.
Yeah, that's fair.
But equally, it is very funny when I do it.
Where did the Dalek Emperor find the jagrafess?
Why did the Dalek Emperor find the jagrafess?
Well, he did all this.
No. The when we get to the next time we see Satellite 5, it's essentially the reason why humanity didn't catch up again is because the Daleks came in and take over after the jagrafess is dealt
Oh
with.
god, what rotten luck.
Yeah, so there's that's just based on my memory, so we might get there and that's not quite right.
I just like the idea that
my
the
understanding
Dalek
is that the jagrafess is genuinely just an evil entity running things for a while, for like 100 years, and then in the next 100 years after that, somewhere in there, the Daleks take over Satellite 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Continuing on the likes, the Doctor setting Rose up for the date.
I did Doc teaches Rose banter so that she can kind of do that like impressive Doctor bit.
That was
at the
fun.
start. Yeah. The design of Satellite 5.
Yeah, that's a really easy one. I just like it.
Including
it's
like
cool,
the spike room.
It's an
yeah,
excellent
cool
little
space station. It's got like the spinny bits for no reason.
But also the
Yeah, what do they
interior,
do?
the
What's in
interior
there?
design I quite like.
I've written down Red Dwarf set design as an emphasis for how I both love and hate it.
Fair.
It's so cheap.
I do think it's one of the cheaper sets, but also it's one of the ones where it has to look like the inside of a space station, which is firstly the one that you would use your cheap budget on.
Yep, true.
It's not a fancy space station
like End of the World, because that was a very good
because
set.
that was for the ultra rich. This is for work. You
Yeah.
are in slum job where you have a 15-minute break where you get told by a steam whistle and you have to go get your what was it like a Galag burger?
I really tried paying attention
And it was
to what
like
they were saying.
it was
No idea.
2 credits.
Yeah.
Oh.
Adam has infinite credits.
I mean, yeah.
That's insane.
The
Does he-
doctor, the surgeon woman that like coerces him into getting like quite invasive surgery, just treats the fact that he has unlimited credits so nonchalantly. She's like,
Yeah.
turns out you've got unlimited credits. Who says that? Who's like, oh, it turns out you've got unlimited money in this place where
But like she did mean it.
yeah.
Like that's a legitimate
Sorry,
form of money.
I'm getting ahead of myself. There are more things I like before I get into like
Yeah.
some of the weirder things of this episode.
The next thing I've got is I like that he then has the moment where he's like, you want to be with the Doctor, and he's feeling like a third wheel, even though
I
it
think
partly.
he did that entirely. To
I
get
know
rid
it's
of
the
her.
setup. I know it's the setup for him like being a piece of shit, but equally it's also like a good moment where Rose is very clearly like, actually yes.
Well, here's the thing, right? It follows on from a couple of things established in the last episode, which I really like. Firstly, that Adam is actually really intelligent. That was his whole thing, is that he's young, and the reason he was working for Van Staten is that he's like way too smart for his own good. And Rose, at the end of the episode, takes him on more as a companion to her Doctor than a romantic interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Doctor's really aware of that, which is why they have that little bit of banter at the end of Dalek, and why at the beginning, after he sets her up for that like cool Doctor moment where she gets to tell him everything,
Yeah.
he teases her and says, "That's your boyfriend." Because at this point, there's you could very easily say there's some chemistry between them, and he would care. And he's so unthreatened by Adam.
Oh, completely, right?
Like he's
'Cause I wondered about that.
had little kind of pissing contests with Mickey where he's kind of like belittled
because-
and undermined
well,
Mickey
that's
for
because
no
Mickey
reason.
is a serious threat.
Yeah, but that is kind of the impression you get, is that Adam is so wet that he's like, Rose isn't interested in him for that, and I find that quite amusing.
The
And I think that does fit better at this stage.
Yeah.
Like we're
No,
7 episodes in.
I very much
Yeah.
liked the way they were doing the chemistry this episode, and that was just one of the moments that
Yeah.
got highlighted. I mean that the look Rose gives the Doctor in the lift as well.
Yeah.
When they're about to go up. I've got the floor 500 horror moment when she first goes up.
Oh, that was
Oh,
great.
yeah,
Little
where the-
spookily piggly.
Yeah, I
Whatever
like
we're
that.
calling it. The
Piddly.
Higgly piggly,
Higgly
piggly,
Hiddly fiddly diddly.
Spookily wookily.
God,
I got
that
a bit
very good, didn't
before they
If this episode is like
Bef-
5 minutes long.
before the bit where Suki goes upstairs and has
Yeah.
all the horror moments. I caught something that I don't think I ever noticed before, but it kind of takes it being a rewatch for me to pick up on it maybe being intentional, but Suki gives the Doctor the out when he's talking to her and what's the other woman? Catheter?
Oh, catheter.
Catheter. Yeah.
No, her name is
It's
Catheter.
Catheter.
I'm calling her catheter.
I'm going to call her Catheter for the rest of the episode. So Suki's got her catheter in, and the Doctor's talking to him. She's just filling up the bag, you know.
I mean, that's what I do every time we record a
You
podcast.
just fill up
As
that
we
bag.
go.
Yeah.
So actually
And I
times...
drink it afterwards. I stare at you lovingly as I do. You know.
That's
Sam
why our
times
double
his
episode
piss.
recordings are better.
He times his pisses.
Yeah, you time your piss. So that you hold it in all day.
That's
Oh,
not really
I
timing
thought you
it.
meant like when he starts pissing, he's got a stopwatch. That he's like-
No, that
and he
wasn't
comes out and he like opens the door and declares to you, Matt, 14 seconds.
Well, we do know that you do outpiss people.
Well, it's not hard to outpiss. But
Can we
piss
just
full
cut it
in.
and end the podcast on that line? That is such a solid line. It's just stone cold. It's not hard to outpiss people.
Well, it's not. I
Anyway.
don't know what to tell you, man. If you go into a urinal and that you can't outpiss anybody already in there, you're already failing.
Do you reckon you could outpiss the jagrafess?
Yes.
Okay.
I always thought outpiss... I would have imagined outpissing meant that you do it quicker. You beat them.
No.
No.
You piss longer.
I
and
think
harder.
he means. I think
harder
he means that
for
he's,
longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Like,
so
I
there's
go
a
into the
more
urinal.
intense stream.
I start
For
pissing. I've got an intense stream of piss going. A man walks in. He pisses, and then he finishes pissing. He
Weak
leaves. He
arc,
washes
no
his hand.
strength.
The whole time that he's come in, pissed, washed his hand and left. I'm still just stood there pissing, and there is no more manlier a thing you can do in,
What
in
Sam
a
is
bathroom.
talking about is both quality
That is
and
legal.
quantity.
It's
Yeah.
He
the
wants
most.
to beat you on both.
I think it is the
That's
most
fair, okay.
legal, most manly thing you can do in a urinal.
Most legal, most manly. I like that. Okay.
Excellent. Let's carry on.
Yeah. So I was going to
Okay.
say the bit with Suki and Kathika. And the
Yes,
Doctor.
and catheter.
I
The
can't
Doctor's
remember.
coming across like slightly awkward because he's asking the really simpleton questions of like, where in the universe am I? As if he's not a space traveller, and
Yeah.
they're just like, how would you get here and not know where you are? And Suki goes, is this a test? Is this an inspection? I have a feeling, because we later find out that she is in fact an undercover like freedom agent,
Yeah.
that she is purposefully bailing out another perceived stowaway for the sake of it.
Ah, excellent.
Because-
Solidarity.
Because it's hard to say because the dialogue isn't quite as tight in this episode in general.
No.
But I got the
Russell
impression
was
that
having an off
made
day.
more sense to me. That like
Yeah.
she's
But-
bailing him out,
Mm.
and then because of that, because she also like she helps him out a bunch of times throughout that whole segment where he's trying to learn everything. So it's almost like she's purposefully feeding him extra information because she's like, someone else is poking around here.
Mm.
And if I fail, someone else will succeed. And it very much has that kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
And then we do find out immediately afterwards that she is trying to snoop around the whole place herself. So, I don't know. I thought that potentially warrants some, maybe,
Yeah, I didn't
maybe
notice
good
that.
foreshadowing. But
But compared to
No,
how
that's good.
I think
I hadn't
compared to
thought
how
about
tight the dialogue's been generally this season, it's not. It doesn't feel
it's
half as good.
It's a
to
bit of
me.
a step down, yeah.
And like, there's a reason I've got so many fewer likes than other times.
I did have another like that was...
I've still got more. Yeah.
Oh, I've got so many. I've got the vendor at the little shop at the beginning calls the Doctor sweetheart in a way that is the kind of condescending thing that you'd hear like a British like market vendor call a woman but not a man.
Yeah.
And I liked after noticing that the amount of kind of like inclusive multi-gender kind of language that they use in the whole episode
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
pretty good.
implies that humanity has progressed in a kind of a social sense quite a bit still, even though the Satellite
Yeah.
5 setup with the jagrafess is kind of keeping them down like 90-ish years in the past.
Mm.
And I just think from the sake of looking at that as compared to language in 2005 and how long it took for kind of gender inclusive language to be used commonly in like media for us, it's I like it was impressive for an episode of TV in 2005 to have that. I think that was quite cool.
Well, and not mock it.
Yeah, it was just played pretty straight. I thought that was pretty neat. The way that the guy was, it's not meant to be patronising when he calls the Doctor sweetheart. But it's like one of those kind of like nothing terms of endearment that people throw in certain dialects and stuff. But the fact that it's addressed towards the Doctor implies that it's much more of a gender neutral thing now, which I liked. I thought that was neat.
I'm just reading my own notes. So I actually don't have many positives on this episode, sadly, to mention.
Right. It's alright, we'll balance out because I don't have any negatives.
I've got negatives. The using the plumbing to find out that something's wrong.
Yeah, and the
Because
Doctor
plumbing
says
is important.
Doctor says plumbing is very important. He says don't underestimate plumbing, which I think is a great beat. And obviously calls back to the end of the world bit where plumbing was important.
I enjoy the stupid vomit freezing gag.
That was so
I just think
out of nowhere. It was
It was out of nowhere. It was really weird, and then they held too long on them both just staring at the vomit in the bowl at the end of the scene.
And she has like a double take at it as well, which
She's
implies
like-
that there's like something weird about it.
Presumably, because
It looks like there's a slice of kiwi in
I was
it.
going to say, there's a slice of kiwi, and she might be like, we haven't had kiwi for hundreds of
Yeah.
years. Like,
Or-
this is an extinct fruit.
It also implies that he like swallowed like a quarter of a kiwi whole as well.
Recently.
So maybe she's like,
And recently as
this
well, because it's
boy-
not digested.
Yeah,
like,
this-
he's
this-
recently swallowed.
this boy not only acts like a snake, but he might eat like a snake as well.
The whole... I mean, like, the whole
weird-
bit is weird.
I
with
really
the
like the
that whole
coercive
bit.
medical stuff because it's like so corporate, like it's all to advance your like they've gate-kept all information unless you pay them loads of money to have a brain chip shoved in your head.
Yeah, and then I haven't got anything else that I've written good until like towards the end.
I do have stuff that kind of basically skips from the plumbing part to the fact that I like the manipulating humanity as a whole via the news being that
So
successful.
I want to talk about that
I think that's kind
towards
of
the
neat.
end of the like section. I wrote
like
it
that
down
too.
earlier, but I then linked it into something else later.
Oh yeah, sure. If you've got stuff in between those, that's where mine kind of falls off for a bit.
Well, it's kind of like it was more like an overall thing about the episode
Okay.
because it's kind of the theme. But like the when it first comes up about like them spreading fake news, the first thing that they kind of touch on is about how there's no aliens and they've cut down. And she's like, "Oh, well, we've cut back on immigration." The doctor's like, "Well, why?" And they're like, "Oh, because of the threats." And he's like,
And there's
"What
like
threats?"
five other
and
examples, isn't there, of stuff?
And he goes through the thing, and she's like, "Well, it's in the news," and it's like, that is. I thought that part was the best bit of dialogue in the episode because it's like, oh, that's just how it is in the UK.
Yeah.
Like, I speak to my coworkers, and they're like, these damn immigrants, and I'm like, well, why do you think that? And they're like, well, it was in the news, and I'm like, that doesn't. The news isn't necessarily the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that I think this is from 2005, but it's more relevant than ever.
Yeah, I definitely
the
agree.
idea of fake news and what sources you can trust, and I really like that sign of the focus and the message of this.
There was a really good bit that the editor talks about that kind of followed on from that as well.
Yeah,
but I didn't write any of it down.
No, it's the bit where he's talking about like the way they've been slightly altering the truth.
Yeah, because it was like he says something about it just takes like a little push to like change like this number, and it will like, oh yeah, we can make companies collapse so that only things that we invest in work. Because he represents banks as well, which I forgot.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all.
So he's there as kind of a big financial investor type
I also
person.
particularly enjoy this being the theme of this episode, I think, because I've recently read The Truth, the Terry Pratchett Discworld book,
Nice.
where it's all about newspapers and how there's the mentality of, oh, it's been published in the paper, they can't print it if it's not true.
Yeah. Who would go on the internet and lie?
Yeah, exactly.
I also my final like on this episode is just silly bully Doctor. When the Doctor and Rose are just bullying Adam at the end by clicking. And
So yeah,
opening his
that's
mouth.
the last thing
that
I
was
have written down.
excellent. That was really good.
That whole click scene is really fun, and then ending it off with the look Rose gives him when he's like, "Take me with you," and she just gives him this look like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You are."
She's
shit.
like, "Buddy, you blew it."
"You blew it." Like
It's such
Bye.
a like, if you had to describe to a boomer what the phrase getting the ick means, you'd show them that scene and it would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, I'd be like, that look there, that's the ick. She's done now. She's done with him.
yeah.
So I thought that was neat.
So-
I also like the bit where Rose kind of defends Adam, goes, "Stop it," and then she immediately clicks and opens the thing afterwards because she can't help it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the kind of like, she's trying to be the good person despite the fact that like it's funny because the Doctor is being a bit too mean-spirited, but also she does deserve one chance to dunk on him because she vouched for him in the first place and like kind of argued for him coming on the adventure and he blew it. So
Yep.
I think she gets a dig. I think that's very fair.
So
I like how he wasn't abandoned just for being stupid. He was abandoned because he was trying to
He was trying
set
to
himself
break
up.
time.
Yeah,
he was he was trying to break time and get rich. Which
like,
honestly, like, was actually for somebody who's meant to be a genius, that was quite stupid.
It was short-sighted. I think the way that he tried to keep the information was actually quite clever because in terms of he can send the data spike sound as just white noise back in time and then translate it when he's home. That's actually really clever because also no one else can capture that information and translate it because they don't have the technology. Arguably, the one guy that might have done has had his brain wiped earlier that week, and unless you're counting maybe Torchwood at this point, because UNIT don't seem to play around with alien technology as much as this era's Torchwood do. But it does make you think that like he would have essentially had a monopoly on that knowledge, and so as much as it would have changed the timeline completely, it would have been him as the one super intelligent guy that knew everything and had the answers to all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And he could just deal it out as he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically, you'd expect he'd probably follow a really similar pattern to Van Staten and have it all behind his, like, I'm going to cure these diseases, but only when there's, like, the maximum need and I can make the greatest profit. And advance technology the least amount so that I can keep drip feeding it to people for money.
Yeah.
Mm.
He
Oh,
seems
is
like
just
that
Van
kind of a
Staten
dick,
again.
you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, do you have any
Oh,
more
I never
likes?
considered
No,
these
that
as-
was my last
Okay,
bit.
on to the dislikes. I think it's a waste of Simon Pegg.
That
Yeah.
it was, and let it be said though that he did do a very good job. I
Oh,
really enjoy the editor.
He's really good in his role.
It's
but
just
it
not
feels
a good
like
enough role for Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg should have had something better. And on that note, I almost feel like one of my dislikes of this episode is not only is the jagrafess. I mean, I'm not that fond of the design, and I think like part of that is just like you guys were saying about the size seeming off because of the way they shoot it.
Yeah, it's just
He
I think it's the
doesn't
fact of the
feel
set that they're in makes
threatening
it hard
enough.
to frame it so that you can see how large it is. Because in some shots, and certainly in the dialogue, they make it sound a lot bigger than it looks whenever they show its whole body in the frame with the humans. Like it looks.
And the
remember
chunk
being a
of
lot
meat
smaller.
that falls onto
Yeah.
the floor from one of its weird little
Yeah.
orifices is pretty large. I feel that's a problem with the shot, but also at the same time, it doesn't feel that threatening of a monster.
No.
It's
And
also
I know,
the fact
like-
that there's the unexplained. It kills people, but it doesn't. It looks like it's going to eat Suki, and then she's just like completely intact. She's not covered in goo or wet,
No.
and she's just dead at a desk with like the So it's like, what does it do? What's it doing?
I
there
feel
wasn't
like
very much
it would be
immediate
better
threat.
if Simon Pegg was just a human alien that was doing all the manipulating himself, and you didn't have this big boss monster.
I'm gonna
as the
disagree, but not
head of it.
fully, because I really like Simon Pegg's character being like a Weasley underling.
Okay.
I like the editor as a
But
character being a Weasley underling, whether it's
I
Simon Pegg or
don't
not.
think. I don't know. I just feel like the jaggafess. The jaggafess feels. Oh well, I'm gonna start saying Max. Max feels really underwhelming, I think, and also like his. Why is he doing this? Feels odd. Like,
Yeah.
what's his motivation? He has no motivation that's obvious other than like to make an entire race of people submit to him.
That's what I was wondering.
Like,
Let's not
it
show a negative effect.
He
of
wants
this.
to control the station so that he can be cooled.
Yeah, the
But,
station calling him, I think, is like a side thing so that they can have
Is
a
it
way
so
to
he
defeat
can
him
like?
at the end.
Is it
Yeah.
so he can have
Right.
people sent there so he can eat them? It's like.
It's really unclear.
What is the
that
Jaguars
is
really
getting out
unclear.
of this?
Whereas I feel
Exactly,
like
yeah.
if you had it be.
It's
If you
the
had
fact
it
we
be a
don't
human,
know-
even.
We don't even know what race it is. If the Doctor had some line of dialogue when he saw it, where it was like, "Oh, these are like the thought eaters" or something, where it's like, "Oh,
That'd have been
the
neat.
actual knowledge
Right,
that
yeah.
is being produced and funneled through this is actually feeding the thing."
It
Or maybe
just-
it eats like fear or discord or some like weird nebulous shit like that.
That would have been neat.
And it's using the misinformation to essentially
See,
fearmonger
actually, yeah.
and
If
eat
it
the
fed
fear.
on like misery.
yeah,
Because
like
the
some
news
shit like
spreads
that.
so much misery, and that would make such a difference to how I'd feel about it. But
I
as
mean-
it stands, Max is like he's just sort of there to be a big blobby monster.
Well, he isn't really a character. Like, I really don't
No.
like the fact that it just roars. I wanted it to speak on screen.
I quite like it speaking through Simon Pegg though. Like he's got a translator for humans.
But also, it seems really so useless.
Yeah, it does seem
And it's
pretty
like, how on
useless.
earth, in just 100 years, has it established itself as the controller of the entire?
You have to assume that like
Human
the
empire.
news network's Satellite 5 was already probably a huge monopoly before the jagrafess took it over. Because
Okay.
otherwise, I don't think
Yeah.
it makes sense. Like I have to assume that.
Yeah, you
So I
have
don't
to.
think the episode gives you
And
any
it's
other
like-
option.
Didn't they say at the beginning? Oh, when was Satellite 5? When did it come online?
Oh, yeah,
When was
'cause
it was
it
like
was
90
only
years ago.
91 years ago.
Yeah, so it's stupid.
91 years.
yeah.
So
He-
dumb.
And it, what, it was
Bit
built
dumb.
around him or what? In which case, like, that doesn't seem to be the case. Like, it seems like he's come on in less than 91 years or something. Or was it not a news station before that? There's so many
There's
questions.
so many questions.
And
they
that
just don't
largely
want to answer
raised
them?
by him being a big blobby monster that
Yeah.
has no real motivation.
If it was like a big Slitheen style puppet monster where it's just a guy in a suit and it is clearly just getting something out of it, the Jagrafess is a giant slug stuck
yeah,
to the ceiling that roars.
the
It
biggest thing
doesn't
is
do anything.
he doesn't seem to get anything out of doing what he's
Oh,
doing.
I completely understand. It's the
I-
lack of kind of exposition to explain what the fuck it's there
So,
for.
like,
is
one of the
a pretty
things
big
I
hole.
think you could change to improve it would be just to have it having been there longer, which could
Oh,
imply that
definitely.
it was originally in like a different form and it's grown gluttonous.
I also think
That would've been
it was
neat.
something
And taken
that
over
Matt
the
pointed
ceiling.
out during the episode is that their technology isn't that advanced. And they point out in the episode, the whole episode revolves around the fact that the technology is not advanced enough because it's been delayed by 90 years. I think it should have been delayed by way longer. I think the Jagrafess should have been there like at
Like,
least like a couple of
Yeah,
thousand
I
years.
think, I think
too,
like
that's what I
at
thought.
least 1,000. I think because
90's nothing, you're in the year 200,000.
Because it's
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
the year 200,000 and their technology is not that impressive.
like it would have been good if the Doctor at the start when he's like, "Oh, 5 moons. Wait, what? There's only 4."
Oh my god, the moons could have been plot relevant.
That's
It-
also
it-
your
yeah, that-
your dislike was that you really wanted to see all 5 moons.
That's
in
my
the-
main problem with
And
the
they
Yeah,
didn't
so
ever
like
show
the
the
Doctor
moons.
says, "Oh, and 5 moons," and that there's very clearly only 4, and maybe there's like an offhand comment from like Rose about it.
Mm.
And then, like, later on, it turns out, oh, the 5th moon isn't there because they haven't built it because they're so far
I
behind.
mean, here's another just to put a silly tidbit out there that could be an interesting change. There are 5 moons now, right? Why aren't the moons shown, and why aren't they tied into the plot? Because what is a moon, right? But like a satellite thing floating in the orbit of your planet.
Right.
Well, 5
They
moons,
should have been
Satellite
mechanical.
5.
They should be what's beaming Satellite
Oh, that
5's
would have been
network out
so
to the
cool.
universe.
That would have been
that would've
amazing.
been-
That's a way better. I mean, I know that's another thing where it's like the 2005 CGI budget clearly wasn't put into this episode in
No.
particular. Like They
Yeah.
put way more emphasis on other episodes, and that's fine.
Although this,
But if they had the budget to put some stuff in, that would have been a cool.
But it is
bit.
annoying that like an episode had to be sacrificed in any way at all. Like,
so
Yeah.
at this point in time, so we're in the year 200,000.
Yes.
So
Very far in the
That's
future.
yeah,
so
but also
far
significantly far behind the year 5 billion.
It is. Yeah.
But the face of Bo,
Yeah.
he's just there looking like he does in the year 5 billion. So
Yeah.
is he time travelled to the year 5 billion, or does he just look like that for most of the time?
I don't know. It's unclear.
Or is the one in the
oh, baby Bomina.
this is what I was getting to. Is the one at the end of the world not actually
the face of Bo's kid.
It's not
It's
actually the
Bobina.
face of Bo, but the face of Bo's child,
Okay.
baby Bobina.
We're gonna go.
What a fucking great name.
We're gonna go in on. That was actually a like that I'd forgotten about. I did put face of baby. In my likes.
This is in my changes. Is I want more. I want to see a little tiny version of the face of Bo.
Okay, here's the thing. If we're gonna talk about face of Bo theories,
Yeah.
in later on, we'll
We'll
maybe
get to
eventually
Gridlock
get there.
or something. Yeah.
No, later on, in Moffat's series, there
face
are
of
the
Bo's
headless monks, right?
Oh,
that can
yeah.
decapitate people whilst keeping their head alive, and their heads seem to stay alive even once there's skulls and there's no tissue left.
We'll get
That's a thing.
there when we get there.
There's also a bit where River Song has one of those like weird vortex manipulator time jumpy things, and it's implied that where she gets it from is like a I think it's like a headless monk monastery, and they got it from a beheaded time agent. And the kind of the vague
Oh, and it's
implication
definitely
is
Jack.
that's Jack, and that's why he ends up just as a head. But that also, the face of Bo being pregnant means that he also, at some point, not only does his entire physiology of the head that he might now be changing, but he's also gaining an incredible mass of extra organs in there
Yeah.
to do stuff with.
Well, I mean, maybe it was just artificial.
Yeah, it's Cassandra style genetic engineering.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess he could be biohacking himself. There's got to be a reason why his body stops growing back, because
Yeah.
before then it would have done.
But yeah, so
We need 10 seasons of Captain Jack adventures that aren't the
yeah,
Torchwood
so
show.
the I've got two other changes
Sure.
Mm.
beyond the face of Bo Baby
I've got
and the
a
longer reign
couple.
of the Jago.
The
Max.
Jargo
The Max.
Press.
The Max.
The jargon flagon.
I also think the change of the moons
What-
actually being.
So you say you got a
evolved,
couple more?
that'd
I've got
be
a
good.
couple, yeah.
Mine are quite silly.
Okay, I've got two that are both. They're both plot relevant, but they
Okay.
are sillier than the ones you've brought up so far. The walls are made of gold. I don't like that. I don't like that because I think that is too stupid of a thing to dangle over people's heads in the year 200 million or whatever it was, 200,000,
200,000.
200 million. No, it's because we went to the year 5 billion, and
We
I was
did.
thinking about that. In the year 200,000, the walls of the place that you are working for your job being made of a precious metal that is probably way less precious now that you've spread amongst the stars.
Yeah.
That is enough to incentivize you to go fucking insane, because Kathaka is the most one-note character
Yeah.
I've ever seen in Doctor Who.
Right.
She's like, I want a promotion, and she's like saying out loud, like,
All
pick
the
me,
time,
pick
yeah.
me. When all of her colleagues are there is no kind of British-coded future person that would act like that.
No.
Because there is a sense of decorum in the very quietly hoping for it, and maybe having a bit of like boiling anger at your colleagues who are getting ahead of you. That is just a Britishism. Like, you don't do that. That's a weird out loud like manifesting
Are you
shit. What's
Are you
that
saying
about?
that Kathaka should have acted more like, say, Martin Freeman?
What
I
I'm
think-
saying is,
Like-
I think that my change from that is instead of there being gold walls, there needs to be something significantly more desirable, like
Or-
having unlimited credits.
Oh,
If
that would have
they-
been great!
If there was like,
Oh
you
my God.
get to floor 500 and you essentially like you're on the high life now. Actually, the money they use is way cooler than saying, "Oh yeah, they got really nice wallpaper." Like, fuck off with that. Stupid.
It is quite lazy.
Alternatively,
It's
have it
really
be
lame.
like something to do with like better job stuff. Like maybe she wants to be
There could
able to
so
like
much anything.
And then
Literally
have it,
anything
if,
at
if,
all.
if it was like better, like being able to do better journalism, that could then link into giving the jagrafess
like maybe
motivation for existing.
Like maybe
Yeah.
if you
Because
it does just
I
sit there and
I
roar.
so hate that he's just a stupid blob on the ceiling with no motivation.
maybe if you
his only purpose is to become Gunge,
maybe right okay.
and he doesn't even become much Gunge. That's another.
The
That's
Gunge
one of
isn't
my
properly on screen, and I
One
have to
of-
say that was disappointing because I remembered Gunge.
We didn't
one
see
of
the
my
editor get
changes.
gunged.
Yeah.
One of my changes is more Gunge.
More Gunge.
Because
Just like how Russell
I think-
probably wanted at the time.
maybe he didn't. Maybe he hadn't learned yet.
You're
Maybe
saying that he gunged Jackie and Mickey and was like, that's too much. And then was like, I'm going to hold off for the rest of my show.
He might have run out of Gunge budget.
All the gunge was
Gunge. Honestly, it's kind of shocking he hasn't done more gunging in his new cut series.
Yeah.
I wanted instead of having Sutek do dust, he should have gunged.
Everyone
Can you
turns to
imagine
gun.
like you have
Oh
Kate
my
turning and be like, you've got to save us, Doctor, and then exploding into Gunge.
I would have enjoyed the episode more.
I would have too. And then like they go and visit the planet, and instead of everything being covered in dust, it's all covered in Gunge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm into that.
And then like, he's like, I need the spoon, and she's like, to scoop the Gunge.
She's like, for the Gunge. And he's like, the Gunge. Yeah.
It's really good hearing about Sutek and everything in the new Who stuff, because Pyramids of Mars is a really cool episode from the old show, and I'm really sad you guys are saying that Sutek is wasted.
Yeah, I think a little wasted in that. But
Only
you
in
know,
the second half of the
I
finale.
agree. I
the
think
first
the-
half is really good
the
setup,
initial
and then it doesn't
reveal
hit
of
the
Sutek
landing.
was pretty
Okay.
good.
I really like the reveal. I mean, it's a bit dumb, but it's fine, and
Yeah.
it is really quite tense, and I love that they didn't do it next time. Anyway, we should
sorry.
be talking about this episode.
But yeah,
So
so,
the-
the changes I had. So the instead of Gold Walls, the reason why I like unlimited credits being there is because one, it sets a precedent for there are people in this new human society where
Yeah.
they are important enough to just have unlimited credits, and that makes Adam having it out of nowhere something that is more sensible to just accept. But also that doctor's gonna or medical person is gonna be
Weird
like,
woman.
I'm assuming now that you're really rich and powerful, or from like some big family on Mars because you're a Martian from the University of Mars. Like that would be cool. The other thing,
Martian boondock.
going off from what Sam said,
Well,
is-
voila.
Well, voila.
like what if it is like how you said where it's more job opportunities. What if the Floor 500 personnel, the only reporters that do kind of like wider universal reporting. So the whole theme of the weird segregation of humanity from all other aliens could come back in and say like, oh, the news, like we can, because of all the tensions that have been manufactured by the Satellite 5 people, the most important people are chosen to do these kind of like interspecies broadcasts with these sensitive topics and like war journalism type stuff, you know, because that's what they'd be led to believe. That would make it way easier to trick the best and brightest into going up there and having them run the jagrafess's thing for no reward. And of course no one comes back because they've got unlimited credits, so they wouldn't ever come back.
Yeah, exactly. That would make it so much better. Because it's stupid why people want to go to Floor 500. It's stupid what's on Floor 500.
Yeah.
Like, the stuff surrounding it, like... With
the mystery's great.
The mystery's great.
The whole thing
The
with the
idea of
venting the heat, I also actually really liked, even though it is just there to give a reason to blow up the jagrafess.
There was too much emphasis put on it. The Doctor goes, wow, there's this big warping of society going on. I'm going to really focus on the plumbing for some reason.
No, but I like that they don't have any leads, so they find a lead that makes sense.
Yeah,
because
I like that
This
too.
is like the thing that they get to from talking to Kathaka is they can't trust the people that are working there because they're too brainwashed.
Yeah.
So what do? They do what the Doctor would do, which is they piss about with the infrastructure of the place because that will tell a story.
Yep.
And it will tell a story based on something more real, which is the manual physical labours that go into maintaining the place, which the Doctor always puts at a higher pedestal. And I think that's just a cool message. So I like that.
Okay,
that's
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I can justify that.
I love the general message of the story, as I've said, and it's just like, it feels just like
it's just a bit of the execution that was just
they just needed
off. Like they didn't really know where to go with it.
And it feels like they wanted to do this message of fake news, but then didn't know where to go with the villain. When actually, like...
And I don't know if it was a...
Just making it a normal corporate bad guy would have actually benefited the
Yeah,
episode
Rupert
a lot.
Murdoch duct taped to the ceiling.
It's also like...
We've got to keep that.
They do similar things in other episodes, slightly better, which I think is why it feels so off.
Yeah.
The next time we see Satellite 5, the kind of the central computer that's powering everything is like a human that has been wired into everything, and that's immediately more emotive because you're like, that's a person being used.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want that there. I would like to keep the jagrafess but make him work as opposed to change him. But it does need something more emotive or something you can connect to easier.
Yeah.
Or the way that it's exploiting people needs to make more sense in some way.
I would have liked to have seen an actual on-screen negative effect of all of this society.
Yeah. Like, they say it's set technology back, and, like, he has killed some people on the top floor, but otherwise we don't... Yeah, and there's no aliens. But for the most part, there's not...
It's a lot of telling and not enough showing, maybe.
Yes. But equally, there wouldn't need to be that much showing. Just, I feel, if there was more motivation from the villain as to why they're doing it.
Yeah. Even if it's just like they could have been bankrolled by other neighbouring populations of aliens that are just really racist and hate humans and wanted to keep them out.
That would have been
great.
That
would have been slightly dumb and reductive, but it would have worked.
Maybe the jagrafess species are like, humans are too expansive, we need to contain them, we're going to send one of our own to, like, deal with the situation.
And again, the easiest way to make that all make sense is just have the Doctor know what the jagrafess... what Max is on site.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And just be like, you're one of them, you fucker.
I have one more small change.
Me too, but mine is smaller on the next one. So you go, and then I'll go.
It might be as small or possibly even the same thing, depending how.
I just don't like that the TARDIS key floats for no reason.
That is exactly what I got. Yeah,
that was so dumb. Yeah.
I don't get it.
I was wondering what the reveal
they're like,
was
oh yeah, the
be.
key, and then they're like. And then, like, it slowly floats out the pocket.
As if someone's holding it.
Yeah.
Because someone was holding it. That's how they shot that, right?
But, like, equally, like, we saw him get the key. We know that he knows the key because he's reading his mind. That's already clear.
Yeah.
You don't need to pull the key out of the pocket and have it hover.
Here's my options, right? So I came up with two options for changing this. Firstly, and I think slightly more on the silly side, because it might actually... It could hypothetically improve the episode if you change some things around, is that one of the ice zombies is just sent down to get it. Now,
that's what I thought was going to happen.
Would it work realistically? Because it's going to get noticed, and also it's going to start thawing out, and I don't know how that works. No. I don't know if the fact that they are
down.
Yeah, but like assuming that they send an ice zombie, right? Here's how I see it going. It goes down. It get noticed because it getting noticed doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Because now the jagrafess knows it has access to a fucking time machine.
Mm-hmm.
It would immediately be like, all right, well, fuck it. We're going to use the time machine instead to do all of our plans. Because it's one of those things where this is such a huge leg up on what I was doing already. Why do I care about Satellite 5 anymore? The other option is just that you stick in the tiniest sentence of dialogue to just fix the whole bit of... He goes, we've got the key. And then you have the Doctor look confused and Rose just be like, sorry, I gave it to Adam. And that's it. That just makes the whole bit work.
Yeah, right.
Without adding really
Stupid
anything.
Flying key.
But her just saying, like, I thought he was homesick, so I said he could wait there if he needed to. You know, like, that would have been fine.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Or just ignore it. And the Doctor Who has ignored larger plot points and had them gone unsaid and had the Doctor magically know stuff before, it would be fine.
I'm very pleased with how the changes in this episode are going for us. It feels like we're finally actually doing what we're meant to
We've
do.
finally been confronted with an
There's
episode that's got major
one
problems.
final thing I realised I have actually written down on the changes.
Oh yeah.
But
sure.
it is a bit of a chibnaling. Of
Okay.
The
Oh,
episode.
you're gonna chib it. Okay.
I'm going to chib it, but via a Moffatism.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Which is
He's just ticking off all of the writers here. He's like, okay, this is a Russell written episode, so I'm gonna throw in a bit of Moffat, Chibnall.
We're going back. I said that. I actually said this to you guys while I watched the episode. There's 5 moons now.
There are 5 moons.
Yes.
Why are
absolutely.
there 5 moons? 4
Oh,
more
for
eggs.
fuck's sake.
There's 4 more eggs.
I don't like the dragon egg thing.
I fucking hate it.
I hate
I
it so
fucking
much.
hate it. But 4 more
Here's
eggs.
the
That's
thing,
why
Sam.
that's why there's more moons.
Here's
There's
the
just
thing,
more
It got a
eggs.
lot more fertile
The
than pregnant.
Kill the Moon is so stupid already with the mass wise that it might as well have laid fucking 5 moons. Because what's the point? What is conservation of mass at this point? We don't need it.
Or maybe it's like
It's got TARDIS
the
technology,
environmental.
They could just have said that, and I would have been
Maybe
all right with it.
the,
weirdly enough.
the environmental agency of Earth
They
is
just dragged more moons over.
it's like, oh, we should breed more of this space dragon, and so
Oh,
it makes
that's
them lay
terrible.
more
I love
eggs.
It would obvieely be the National Trust because
It's
that's,
the- yes,
that's
no, it's the
they're
national-
still functioning
the
in the year
national-
5 billion.
The
so.
National Trust incubating dragon eggs, and that's why there's more moons. And that's my final change.
So are we keeping the National Trust as like a sort of overarching joke?
Well, no, they're
Well,
the,
why not?
I know, I
the
think
thing
we
is, the
should.
National Trust are there, presumably, at the point that the Earth's surface has been turned into like a city planet for the year 200,000, the National Trust have kept detailed records of what it was before, so they
Yeah.
can put it back later.
For a classic Earth.
So actually, I think the National Trust are responsible for the arcology project of turning it into a city planet.
I could see that.
Because they were like, right, you can do it, but
Let us
use future tech and scan the Earth so we can recreate it.
So are they
at a
essentially
later date.
are they essentially like the landlords of Earth now? Like they are renting
guess.
out the ability to turn it into a city planet so that they can, once the lease is up, turn it back into classic Earth.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. No, I'm with Sam on that.
I see. It's an explanation that would explain it.
I'm not against
I
this.
like your proposal of it being
Yeah,
the
and
only
then
expert.
while they're doing that, they're like, oh well, let's use just some of the funds from people living on our city planet to incubate these eggs.
I'll be honest. As much as I find the
I'm with
joke
it.
funny,
No, I'm with it.
as much as I find the joke funny, I do prefer that they are artificial moons that are actual satellites.
Oh, me too.
satellites. I would like to keep that potentially because I just
like
think
that.
that's neat.
I like that because it's so cool showing the height of humanity.
I
Yeah.
like
the
also
Doctor
the
keeps
possibility
talking
that
And I
they've
think
just
it would-
dragged other bodies to be moons. Like, what
Yeah.
if they just went and got Ceres and
about.
just
They
brought
got
it into
Ganymede and
Earth
moved it
orbit?
over. I kind of
Ganymede would be a bit much.
I still kind of prefer the idea that we just built them. Like as a
Yeah.
Showa fan.
Also,
I
Build
think
new
it's
moons.
I think it's
oh, the
cool.
egg moon.
I think
The
it's
egg-
cool,
the
and I
egg
think
moon.
also there's no reason not to have it, especially when it's not quite at the turning point of the episode where they realise that technology is behind where it should be. So there being these cool tech moons that are broadcasting information across
Yeah.
the universe would be great. I think that's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nice.
Okay,
Quite nice.
on to
Oh,
quotes.
I have one thing that I want to just point out. I said that the end of the world principles was something that I was going to apply to future sci-fi episodes.
Yeah.
They don't. No, they do apply here. They are kept to here. The fact that there aren't loads of different alien races is a very important and crucial plot point, and therefore you don't have to take anything away to still have the just human cast.
yeah.
And they
Good-
also
good
sell
budget
it
save.
with a good amount of hustle and bustle in that and pleepity ploopeting
Yeah.
in that.
And they keep the camera
scene.
quite close so that you don't see that there's clearly not enough extras.
No, there's not a crazy amount of people there, but they sell enough kind of stuff happening. There's shots of just people eating fast food that aren't main characters. There are kind of these lifestyle shots of the kind of background scenery extras.
It's a bit more like what they did in the first episode, honestly,
Yeah,
when they were
it's
doing
something that
London-y
and
stuff.
it's done on purpose to draw our attention back to this is just like the people eating chips in London, but
Yeah.
in the future. And it's something that they do really well while Russell's showrunner, and it really is going to fall off afterwards. I
Yeah.
think. But I did want to point it out because I said I would bring up the end of the world principles forever, and I've started now.
Quotes.
I
First
have two.
I wish audience
First
you
quote
could
I
see
wrote down.
Kamal's face.
5 moons.
Oh no!
We already discussed that.
Oh yeah,
All right, I'll hug anyone.
Oh, that was a good
that
one.
was a very good moment.
We should keep that as a principle.
5 moons.
No, I'll hug anyone. But just actually, to be fair, it should only be for Eccleston's doctor.
It should.
But he will hug anyone.
He will hug anyone.
Let's check it.
My first quote: liar.
Liar.
Because I love his he's got a bit of spice behind it. He's having a lot of fun.
I really like the line.
catching her
No,
out.
I'm just time sick. Like him just coming up with that
Yeah.
phrase. Loved it.
When he's talking about how far back technology is, and he's like, "It's backwards. There's a great big hole in your head."
That was great.
That was my only other quote is there's a great big hole
I
in your
loved
head.
the way that the doctor was just sat in the chair as a king, and Rose was stood next to him. That was great.
One more quote, which is from Rose, of when she's talking to the Siren Peg's character. She goes, "You're not a Jagro belly."
Oh yeah.
And she's like, "Why are you here?"
I
You're
wish
not
I
a
was
jack-
a
Which
Jagro
I think
belly.
has a similar feel to the
Slakeen.
Slakeen.
It's the Tyler mispronouncing the alien.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that I would have written down the one about the weird burger that the doctor orders
If
for
I
Adam.
remembered what on earth.
But I immediately
we were trying to remember.
it was like a ronk burger or like a conk burger or something.
Clunge
It's a
burger.
clunge burger.
No, I'm just.
It was one of those stunk burgers. It increases your stonks.
You can manipulate the stock market like this, and you're checking.
I've just got to point out one other thing actually that I've just realised.
Yeah.
The doctor, the doctor knows exactly where and when they are, right? He tells Rose. Rose tells Adam.
Yeah.
The doctor gets out a little memory stick for credits and puts on some spending money for Adam. He knows that he gave him unlimited money. He knows that he gave him way too much money. This is all the shit that went down entirely on the doctor for being so short-sighted.
Yeah, a little bit.
What an idiot move. He knows Adam well enough to know that that's a bad idea. Adam abandoned Rose at the door when they were trying to escape the Dalek because he clearly has this self-preservation energy. He clearly knows to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give that guy unlimited credits.
No, unlimited money seems like a bad idea.
So, what quote are we each putting forward?
I am going to put. There's a great big door in your head. Because I like that one a lot.
Well, I've only got now. I'm just time sick. Oh no, I forgot one. Ladies, gentlemen, multi-sex, undecided, or robot.
Okay, nice.
I was going to go for the same one Kamal did, so
okay.
I guess that's the quote of the
guess
episode.
it is, yeah.
There we go.
And there's one thing we forgot to do at the very start. Banger or schlanger?
Oh my god.
I am of the opinion that this episode's still a banger. There is stuff that I would change.
Because this
but
is a
I still
binary.
like it.
Just about teetering between the two.
Okay, interesting.
And for me, I'm going to say... I just don't care for it. It's got to be a schlanger.
Okay, this is
My
interesting.
first
This is the
schlanger.
first schlang that we've had in the whole
I'm
podcast.
wondering whether or not I agree with Sam, because I think there was enough wrong with it that it kind of made me go, wait, a few too many times?
I love that we're having this discussion because throughout the whole episode I was just having a great time.
I was enjoying
I
it too,
really
which
love
is-
this
which is
episode.
why I kind of don't want to call it a schlanger.
I definitely
I don't know
remembered
if I
it
think
being
I was
worse.
having that great a time myself.
I remember it being worse than it is. I like it more than I thought I was
Okay.
No,
I think I'm with Sam. I
Okay.
think I'm with Sam. Schlanger, honestly.
So are we gonna say that makes it an overall schlang?
Yeah,
If it's a
it
2 to
does,
1?
yeah.
We finally, yes.
I will
We've got
put
our
it
first
as
schlanger.
Schlanger.
And then a 5-word summary. If you want to recap, I had fake news versus the Doctor.
I had sinister Medicare nearly ruins everything.
And I had Rupert Murdoch goes slug mode.
I vote for the slug.
I vote for slug mode.
Me
It's so
too.
good.
It's brilliant.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing to end on. Are we giving a kind of a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the writing and directing of the episode?
Oh yeah. Good
So
point.
it's written by Russell T Davies. I think it's
it is
not his best.
I think it's definitely his weakest of this season.
So far.
I am sure that there are episodes in Tennant's seasons that I don't care for as well that I'm forgetting about.
Probably.
But I think that this
is the weakest one so far.
Of the ones that he's written, definitely.
Yeah. And then it was directed by Brian Grant.
And I thought the direction of this episode was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
With
The
the exception
only
of the
thing
way
of
the shot
that
Max was shot.
Yeah.
With the exception of that, the rest of the directing seems very good.
Admittedly, for an episode that almost certainly had a very low budget when compared to some of the others, I think that actually some of the jaggafess shots were
Also, I'll put it to the this is a show that they have to shoot without a jagrafess in shot and then add the jagrafess later with the limited budget.
Yeah.
It is down to whether the BBC had essentially the means to well construct that kind of a CGI creature, and whether the directors and cinematographers have
any idea what
the
it
knowledge
looks like.
of working with large CGI kind of environments and or like characters on their scenes, because I don't think it was nearly as common to do anything of the sort in 2005.
No, absolutely not.
Unless you were working on like a Hollywood film. So I would say that there's a good amount of leeway I would give to Brian. I think I'm introducing the Brian leeway.
I say with that.
When it came to his human directing, it was really good.
Yeah, and I liked the way that the Satellite 5 scenes were
I think
shot.
the
and
bit
I think
that
they
caught my
felt
eye
good.
the most specifically is the moment when the Doctor's like angrily going towards him at the end.
Yeah,
that was
it's
great.
like follow him over the shoulder.
I also thought that the dialogue, even though it wasn't the best written in the series, was still it hit pretty hard because the performances were very good. And so it often takes good direction for the good performances to come through. So regardless of the fact that also the actors happen to be fantastic, I'd say that's a nice little tick for Brian Grant as well from me.
Right.
Yep, I think
so. If you're in, next week we will be covering the next episode, which is Father's Day.
It's going to be good.
That's to look forward to. But as of now, if you enjoyed the podcast...
Well, I think that people who enjoy this podcast should share it with someone who's just a big slug on the roof.
Share it with someone who's gullible enough to go to floor 500 because the walls are made of gold.
Share it to someone who's got golden walls, maybe, even.
I think so.
Just share it with Rupert Murdoch.
Yes, share this with Rupert Murdoch directly.
Don't share it with anyone else.
Anyone who has this, please try emailing Mr. Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah,
we should all do that.
I just don't see why we shouldn't. Like, there's generally
it's never going to get to him anyway.
If we don't enjoy the podcast, we shouldn't email.
And if we
only if we enjoy it.
Yeah, and if we don't ever come back, it's because we were sued to death.